Welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, the podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I'm Cliffy D, and you can find me on Twitter at Cliffy D.
And I'm Tim Capper. You can also find me on Twitter at Repact. That's REPPACT. And this episode of the podcast is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code ALSFlightDeck10 at checkout, you will save 10% off your entire order. So head over to sportbuffshop.com, use the 10%, buy and look at many, many things, CFL, Major League Baseball, NHL. Get everything you can in your cart. Save that 10% and support local.
Mm-hmm. And the Alouettes Flightdeck is all over social media and the World Wide Web. Make sure you head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca for all of your podcasting needs, especially our archive of 7+ seasons, Tim. We are now in our 8th season of podcasting. Can you believe it?
And slowly coming upon 200 episodes.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's true. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter as well, folks, over at Alouettes FLDeck. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Alouettes Flightdeck Pod. Make sure you check out our Instagram, where we have been now getting into the live streaming aspect of things over there on the gram, as the kids say. Head over to Alouettes Flightdeck. Mm-hmm. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Alouettes Flightdeck. And by all means, folks, if you want to help us out with this podcast, check out our merch store over at teespring.com/stores/AlsFlightDeck, featuring our newest If You Know, You Know shirt with the Al's Bird 56, which is a really cool design. And I am looking forward, Tim, to getting my hands on our own, the one that we'll be rocking at the stadium at some point this year.
It's coming very, very soon. I've already gotten the notice, so it's coming very, very soon, buddy.
Oh, sweet. So definitely looking forward to that. And of course, folks, if you ever want to reach out to us, I mean, as we've said, there's numerous ways to do so. Please do. If you're listening to us on YouTube, make sure you hit us up in the comments as well. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Tell a friend. I mean, make sure you get the word out. The Alouettes Flightdeck is here. New CFL season's upon us, and we are just so excited. We're starting to take things up to the next level, and we want you along for the ride.
Exactly. And we gave away our first pair of tickets for the SportBuff Flight Crew seats for the preseason game coming this Friday versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And Cliff, the winner was
none other than Mike Palmorino. Congratulations, Mike. We hope you enjoy the view from the Flight Crew seats. And as it's as simple as that, folks. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you're tuning in. Make sure you're a part of us, and who knows, we've got we got tickets for every game this year, and we want to make sure that those Flight Crew seats get used. So make sure you're participating in the contest, make sure you're part of the giveaway, be like Mike in this sense, and subscribe. And hey, the next home game is the home opener, June 10th against the Ottawa Red Blacks, and that is going to be an incredible game for so many reasons. Mm-hmm. So when we announce the contest for those seats, make sure you're tuned in, make sure you're dialed up, and who knows, it could be you sitting in the Flight Crew seats next.
Okay, seeing the flyover, which was just announced, but Our Lady Peace, pre-game show. I mean, so many things. This game, I haven't checked what the stadium looks like yet when it comes to tickets sold, but this game's going to be rocking because everybody remembers it's usually Thanksgiving that we got to wait for the flyover, but this is going to be the home opener, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. Let's say Sunday on a Saturday. It's going to be so much fun. So stay tuned. It should be announced in the next couple of days, and make sure you get in on the contest.
Absolutely, it's going to be a game to remember and a night to remember for so many reasons. And listen, if you want guaranteed seats, then make sure you're entered in the contest. Make sure you do what you have to do to get in on this. And if you're chosen as the lucky winner, then you're good. You're in. You will see Our Lady Peace at halftime. You will be a part of, hopefully, a long winning streak for the Montreal Alouettes. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic night, and we want you to be a part of it.
Exactly. Usually Cliff and I would really quick go into a little bit about, maybe the previous week or something like that. But Cliff, you had mentioned to me that you felt that there was and it really is a necessity to make this dedication that you wanted to talk about this week before we started the actual show.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a heavy heart last week. Well, actually, it was a couple weeks ago, and you had mentioned while we were at training camp that a very good man, a huge Alouettes fan, and quite frankly, a tailgating legend in Alain Chartrand, also known as Mon Oncle Alain. If you ever come to an Alouettes tailgate, you know who Mon Oncle Alain is. Just an absolutely wonderful gentleman, a huge football fan, just a great, just a good-hearted, kind soul. Unfortunately suffered an aneurysm, and it was said that he was not going to be much longer for this world. And unfortunately, last Saturday, Mon Oncle Alain had passed away. He's not in pain anymore, and it's tough because I remember him as such a, as I said, just a good man. I mean, always big smile on his face at the tailgate. He was the kind of guy that, he was like mon oncle, which in English, it's like calling someone uncle. Like, he was like your uncle. He was like everybody's uncle. He was the kind of guy that he wanted to make sure that you were okay. You were having a good time. Like, you come to the tailgate, you need a beer, I got you. Want to grab a hot dog? Go for it. You show up by yourself, like, hey, come over here, let's make some friends. And he'd pair you up, and you start making friends immediately. That was the kind of person Mon Oncle Alain was. And it didn't matter where you go. Like, when it came to going to Grey Cups, he was there for those. Going to away games, whenever the Alouettes would play in Ottawa, Hamilton, Toronto, set up at the tailgate there, and people knew who Mon Oncle Alain was. And just a good man. I mean, I could sit for hours and talk about all the fun times we had together, and just always looking out. Always loved reading my blogs when I was writing them, and he knew how much we cared about this team, and he cared about this team too. Like, he was there for the wins, the losses, everything. Like, he was very much dedicated to the Montreal Alouettes, and it's going to be tough. Like, I know that there's not going to be a tailgate tomorrow at the preseason game, but I know that they will have the tailgate back on June 10th, and it will not be the same without Mon Oncle Alain. I can tell you that right now. But I do want to dedicate this season of us doing the podcast. I want to dedicate it to Mon Oncle Alain. I'm always going to remember him. He's so difficult to forget. There's no question about that. And anyone who's ever, even outside fans that would come in and meet Mon Oncle Alain for the first time, they walk, you will never forget him. That's just the kind of personality he was. Like, you talk about larger than life, just an absolutely wonderful human being, and he will be incredibly missed. My thoughts are with his family and all of the people at the tailgate that knew him and loved him and appreciated him for what he was. Mon oncle, repose en paix. On va vraiment manquer. You will be missed, Mon Oncle Alain. Rest well. And as far as I'm concerned, you've got the best seat in the house for Alouettes games this year and for now to the end of time. So, until we meet again, Mon Oncle Alain, we speak your name.
Before we go any further, Cliff, I can say I know I wasn't. I've gone through with many different parts of football family. For me, there are many people that I was never able to meet in person, whether it be that I didn't go to, I didn't go to the tailgating enough or whatnot, or just didn't take the chat. But I'm sure this is one gentleman that I'm sure I would have loved to have met, and very well spoken. And can you just think of the stories that he's going to be able to have with all the former players that may have passed already? It's just going to be one big giant tailgate party for him up in the sky. So I think it's going to be.
I hope so. I really hope so, because there is no one more deserving. And one can't help but think, but okay, well, when our time comes, who's going to be the first one to welcome us to this great tailgate party in the sky? He'll be there for it. So,
if you happen to see last week's episode, as you know, or at least midweek actually, we did have a reaction video to the last preseason game. If you happen to miss any of that, if you didn't see the full thing on Instagram, you can head over to our YouTube page where it is going to be available, and we're going to try to make sure that if we do anything else on Insta, we're going to push everything over to our YouTube page also, so make sure you head over there and check it out. Since then, though, since the game itself, because we're not going to really rehash it because we're going to move forward to what's coming up tomorrow, because we are taping this late because of the almighty Hydro-Quebec and pulling Tim's power. There were a few minor transactions that the Alouettes did announce, didn't they, Cliff, leading up into this last week, heading into the preseason finale for the Alouettes.
Yeah, I mean, as far as making cuts go, I mean, typically the cuts have already been made earlier in the week to get down to 75, but as it often is the case due to injuries or just finding that right fit for your team, like sometimes teams will still make the occasional drops or adds or whatnot. So like this past week, the Alouettes did sign 3 players and release 4 of them. Added to the roster is Avery Ellis, making his return to the Montreal Alouettes. Last year was traded to the Edmonton Elks. Didn't seem like it was a good fit over there, and lo and behold, he's back in blue and red. So we're definitely happy to have that. Just another stout body on the defensive line, and again, you can't have too many good defensive linemen, just like you can't have too many good Canadian offensive linemen. So definitely happy to see Avery Ellis back, but now it's going to be kind of confusing because we also have Jabari Ellis, which to my knowledge, they are not related, just pure coincidence that they both have the same last name. So it's going to be funny though, because you're like, oh, what a great sack by Ellis. Which one? Like, oh, and now we have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Also added onto the defensive line was Kevon Bennett from Arkansas State, as well as Chris Moore, a linebacker from Georgia Tech. And of course, as you add players, you also end up deleting players. So released from the roster were Jerry Howard Jr., running back from Towson. He did see some limited action in the preseason game versus Ottawa, and unfortunately didn't do anything of note. Now, mind you, it's probably because Ottawa's defensive line was really, really playing well. So he just kept getting bottlenecked over and over again. So just didn't quite have a chance to get through and make that impression. So fortunately, he was being shown the door. Tyshawn James, a receiver from Central Connecticut, also being shown the door. Once again, I didn't see or hear very much of him throughout the preseason game. So unfortunately, it just ended up being another camp hand. So it's like that sometimes, along with David Rivers, who we did get to see in limited action as well versus Ottawa, and didn't do anything outstanding other than, he was there, he played, but didn't do anything particularly outstanding, which at this point of the year, you get limited opportunities in training camp and in preseason, and you've got to make the most of them. Yeah. And it just didn't work out for him. Along with Jeremy Webb, defensive back from Kansas, he too, unfortunately, just as I said, sometimes these guys are brought in strictly as camp arms and just a chance to test out and make the other more established players compete just a little bit harder. And, just once again, when you're talking about the numbers and you're talking about adding and deleting players from the roster, that's, sometimes the numbers game will get you. So, and I think that's the case with all 4 of these gentlemen. I have no doubt in my mind that they came in ready to go and were fighting hard, but sometimes, it just doesn't work out. So, we wish them well, but unfortunately, it's on to the next.
Yeah, and obviously with the game coming up this week, there's going to be some major changes on the roster itself. It's not. I don't know. We'll see what it feels like. Cut down day this year versus what you and I went through last year. These two years in themselves have been so completely different, with the whole CBA thing and, basically a brand new team, that type of thing. So it'll be a very interesting thing, but we can't discount what's coming up though, because obviously with the game on Friday, that's what's going to lead up to who the coaching staff is going to decide to keep and who are going to cut and who are going to go onto the practice squad.
Yeah, there's a lot of the starters are going to be dressed, and we'll probably see like a series or two, maybe even a quarter's worth of action. But essentially it's these bubble guys that I keep talking about that this whatever opportunity they have to make the most. They absolutely have to make the most of it no matter what. I mean, yes, we're going to finally see Cody Fajardo suit up as a member of the Alouettes. And again, I would honestly say, like, just based on his performance in training camp so far, I see him maybe playing 1 or 2 series and then handing things over to Caleb Evans, Davis Alexander, and Mike Glass to see which of those guys, essentially who is going to step up and be the number 2 guy. Because I think that's the competition right now. I mean, Cody Fajardo is safe right now. I mean, barring something catastrophic happening, he will be the starting quarterback for the Montreal Alouettes this year. But who's going to be number 2? Who's going to be the guy that Jason Moss is going to tap on the shoulder and say, all right, you're in now. If Fajardo goes down to injury or isn't performing quite like we expect him to, who's going to be the one that's going to go in next? Who's got next, essentially? So is it going to be Evans? Is it going to be Alexander? Is it going to be Glass even? Because right now there's 4 quarterbacks in camp, and technically usually only 3 spots are available, and then someone goes in the practice roster. So I mean, in theory, the Alouettes could keep all 4 of these guys in some way, shape, or form. It's just a matter of who's going to be the next guy, who's going to be the number 2 guy, and essentially number 3, and so on. So that's going to be a very interesting experiment tomorrow, if you will, just to see who's going to be given more reps, who's going to be given more of an opportunity to show what they can do, and who's going to make the best case to be the number 2 quarterback, and who's going to be number 3, and so on. So that tomorrow is something I'm going to be looking at. I honestly don't see Fajardo playing more than a quarter's worth, if that even. I would honestly say like maybe 1-2 series at the most, just to kind of get get a feel of things and to really let the fans see him in Alouettes colors, as opposed to seeing him in green and white for so many years. Now he's playing on our team. So I think there's going to be a little bit of interest to see how he does there. But it's really going to come down to the backups, who's going to step up and be Cody's right-hand man, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's true. And the quarterbacks themselves, I think, have a little bit to work on too anyways, because as we saw last week versus Ottawa, that atrocious chance of just getting 1 short yard after Davis Alexander scampered for 9. You can't get a yard in 2 plays. It's something that happened last year quite a bit. So they have to decide how this is going to work. The O-line needs to do a little bit better, obviously, because you got to get a push. Because they really didn't do it in camp, as we saw. It was just going, it was just a fait accompli where they just went forward and, it was just a play. You know what I mean? So that
and we've been talking about how arguably this offensive line is worlds better than what Cody Fajardo had with him in Saskatchewan last year. But they're going to have to prove it. They're going to have to really show that, yes, this offensive line is for real. I mean, the talent on here is second to none as far as I'm concerned. Like, you take a look at all 5 positions, and you got some honest to goodness talent here, and these are guys that should be able to give that 1 yard for the quarterback sneak, or be able to create just enough of a lane for a William Stanback or Walter Fletcher to be able to dash in and get that extra yard for the first down and help move the chains. So they've got to show up too tomorrow. A lot of these names you look at and you think, okay, their job is safe. And yes, it is safe for the most part. But
we've seen weirder things happen.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but for a lot of these guys that their job is basically on the line, they're going to need a little bit of help from the big guys up front. So hopefully they'll get that. And once again, whoever has a chance to prove that they belong on this team will get every opportunity to do so.
Yep, we got most of the starters will play. I'm curious to know how long the ones will play. I mean, you got Sutton's going to be playing, Dequoy, Murray, Beverett, Halloramana is going to be playing. Amando's going to be playing again. Brock Gowanwalk is going to be back. But I think one of the interesting things though here, Cliff, obviously, and Stanback too, because we want to see how this O-line does for the run. The interesting thing though is we found out this week that it still seems that that we still have an issue at wide receiver when it comes to injuries. What are your thoughts, dude? I mean, as I said, we, again, it is week 2 of preseason. Yes, most likely these guys are, Ellingson, obviously he was a huge free agent signing. We know what happened last year before he came back. And there's Tyson Philpott, who for the second year in a row has an issue with a hammy.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought on these? Because we really haven't heard much about Ellingson. We don't know what's wrong, if anything. I mean, yes, we know he's not a spring chicken. He is 34. It's funny to say. Not a spring chicken at 34 years old. Thoughts when you heard and you saw that on social?
It is concerning, especially Philpott. I mean, yes, Ellingson, we know, had injury issues coming in, and it was one of those risk-reward signings when it came to the Alouettes. I mean, yes, it was big because he's definitely a named player, and he's won Grey Cups, and he's definitely someone that, when healthy, can be one of the more top-tier receivers of this league. My concern, though, is with Tyson Philpott. I mean, it's funny, though, because every time we saw him at camp, he was like, I'm looking good. I feel good. I'm good, man. Like, you thought, okay, he's ready to go. He's rare. But then now this issue with his hamstrings come up, and that's concerning. One can't help but wonder, though, if maybe the Alouettes are just being extra cautious, and I have to believe they are. But this is, again, a prime opportunity for some of those guys that we were talking about. For example, Austin Mack, who I definitely think will make the team without any question. I think when it comes to, as I said, you cannot replace a Eugene Lewis so easily. But he's a guy that has so far come in and played outstanding football and can definitely, I'd say, live up to that kind of expectation. Like he no one's expecting him to come up with Geno level numbers, but he can still step in there along with the other receivers on this team, and he can go toe to toe. For me, it's some of these guys like the Tyler Sneeds and the Keyshawn Abrams that we're expecting big things out of them tomorrow, because those are the guys that, I mean, the difference between a good game and a great game essentially is going to be a difference between being on the practice roster or actually being part of this team. If, God forbid, Ellingson and Philpott end up on, whether it's the 1-game list or maybe even the 6-game, and that could be an interesting strategy as well. Like, do you 6-game Ellingson, for example, or Philpott, or both, in order to give some of these guys that are kind of on the cusp a chance to, if nothing else, at least make the practice roster with potential opportunity to come on board and become an actual game day player, and maybe this is the opportunity that they need to shine. And that seems to be a very a running theme in Montreal more than anything else, is that receivers go down and someone steps up, someone comes along and becomes the next big superstar.
Yeah, it's true. Mind you, we don't know what it is with Ellingson. We don't know what it is right now. I mean, and it would suck just for our one of our big free agent signings to go on the 6th game. I honestly don't think that's going to happen, in my opinion. I think if anything, it'll be for both of them. If they do not play versus Ottawa in the opener, I think it'll be a 1 game, but we'll see. I'm just curious to know what the issue is. And by the way, interesting comment. Speaking of injuries, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the interesting comment that came from Coach Moss when it came specifically to injuries?
No.
He basically said, I will answer anything else to you. You ask me about injuries, I'm not going to tell you about them. I'm not going to comment on them.
Why should he?
It's a good. I understand his reasoning. You don't want to give the other teams a potential edge, because yes, they will end up seeing on the depth chart who is and who isn't going to start. Mm. But also, don't you think the fans? I understand it's just media. Don't you think the fans would like to know?
I'm sure they would.
I mean, I know each coach does things differently. We all know that Bill Belichick, yeah. When it came to Bill Belichick and him actually, coming forward with an actual injury, whether somebody was hurt or not.
Yeah. No,
probable.
Yeah. No, it's keeping your cards close to the vest, which, again, that's definitely Moss's, right to do so. And yeah, I'm sure fans would like to know, because especially the ones that play fantasy football or participate in gambling and such. Again, they feel they should know what's going on before they make their rosters and whatnot. But I mean, honestly, if I'm not obligated to disclose any injuries, then why would I? Why,
Yeah.
as you said, why would I give a team potential edge and help them prepare to play us? Like that would be my thought process, is why would I give my opponent a chance to now start scouting my other players?
Yeah.
Forget that.
No, I get that. But we will be able to see if the league does what they did last year to go with the whole gambling aspect of it and fantasy aspect of it. We'll see the day-to-day practice roster, the practice reports. So we'll kind of get an idea, but I guess we'll never find out specifics unless you happen to know said player and you're able to ask them off the record or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. And believe me, if you ask any player, they're always ready to go. They're going to say, "Yeah, I'm fine," but you're fine until you're not fine. That's the thing. And then it's a matter of if you're looking to add these guys to your fantasy football team, or if you're looking to maybe place a wager on how many yards they're going to run for or catch for, or how many touchdowns they're going to score, and then they end up not playing, then that kind of that would probably piss you off if you're a gambler or a fan that just wants to have a little action on the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the actual day-to-day operation of the team, then yeah, if you don't have to disclose anything, why would you? So
no, I get that. Interesting story. I guess I didn't know about the hearing of the interesting story about Ento being a former wide receiver, now trying out at cornerback.
Yeah, so I wonder if Jason Moss trying to do his best impression of Chris Jones by taking a receiver and making him a defensive back.
But he wasn't. But he wasn't. I get what you're getting, but he wasn't signed originally as a wide receiver. He was signed as a cornerback, wasn't he?
Yep.
So I mean.
No, it's like I said, it's just funny because it's something that we're seeing more and more of, and essentially most wide receivers do end up becoming very good defensive backs, and vice versa, because it really does come down to speed. And who knows better what a receiver is thinking than a former receiver that is turned into a defensive back or corner.
Yeah.
So.
Usually we'll see when it comes to changes. It's usually the Canadian quarterbacks that they're drafted as a quarterback, but they when they come into camp, they'll change them over to wide receiver, and a lot of them have done very well. There are some huge players, some huge names that came into the CFL originally as a quarterback in U Sport, but made a hell of a name for themselves as wide receiver.
Hell, at one point in Hamilton, Vernon Adams was. They toyed around with the idea of turning him into a receiver, which would have been absolutely stupid. Mm-hmm. I mean, not because he couldn't do it, because the Lord knows he's got athletic ability all day long, but I mean, you've got a top tier quarterback, and because you're too busy putzing around with other quarterbacks, who shall not be named, and you're gonna man, I tell you, how happy is VA to not have to deal with nonsense like that anymore? But unfortunately, as you said, Canadian quarterbacks, if they make it to the Canadian Football League, that's typically what happens, because not everybody is Nathan Rourke. Not everybody has the opportunity to show what they can do as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Instead, it's a matter of, well, you're athletic, you can do this, you can do that, and we'll just switch your position. Another great example, Marc-Olivier Brouillette, a friend of the show. He was an outstanding quarterback for the Université de Montreal Carabin back in the day, but Jim Pop took a look at him and said, "Nah, man, you're going to be our safety," and had a fantastic career doing so. So it's just sometimes that's just how it is. And the Canadian quarterbacks, by and large, you want them to succeed, you want them to do well, but sometimes it just isn't in the cards. And if you can switch yourself to another position and somehow get on the field, then more power to you. And hey, you never know. Sometimes those guys end up being used as emergency quarterbacks because, hey, they know how to throw a football pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. Besides quarterbacks, any other position or positions that you're going to be looking at specifically for this game versus Hamilton on Friday?
One thing I'm definitely looking at is the secondary. big time, because we've got the established guys that'll be suiting up, and they'll be given, I'm sure, at least a quarter's worth of work to make sure that they get all the kinks worked out and that. But it's kind of funny, like just looking at the depth chart and seeing like so many linebackers all of a sudden. Now a lot of these guys too could potentially become defensive, like secondary players, like defensive backs or corners, but they're just loading up on this linebacking thing. As I've said, this linebacking core as it sits is pretty impressive this year. But it's, I guess, just now a matter of just seeing what these guys can do defensively, whether it's, you know, as either secondary members or members of the linebacking core, like anyone in those positions. If they got a chance to shine, they've got to do it. They got to find a way to get on this team by any means necessary. So I'm curious to see. We have a pretty good idea who this starting lineup is going to be come June 10th, but it's the other guys that are essentially fighting for their lives right now. Like they're going to have to play like their hair is on fire tomorrow and prove that they belong on this team, even if it's just to get a practice roster spot. Just get your foot in the door. That's really what it is. This is their chance to get a foot in the door. If they can make an outstanding play or two happen tomorrow against Hamilton, that's going to bode extremely well for them. This really is like a job interview. This is the last one. This is essentially your last chance to show that you belong on this team in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And you best not miss. That's the thing, is you best not miss. This is your chance to do it. And it's on TV, on RDS, mind you, but people are watching this game, and you got to show that you belong. And if for whatever reason you still end up getting cut, then if your film is impressive enough, well, everybody else is making cuts too, and everybody else is going to be taking a look and saying, "Oh, the Alouettes let that guy go? Well, shoot, I want him." And then signed, and you're all of a sudden you're on another team, and you're back at it again. So it's kind of the fun of the preseason when you think about it, is just seeing who wants it bad enough, who is ready to take that next level, who's ready to step up and become a member of this team, whether it's practice roster or actually a member of the active roster, who is ready to come on board and be a part of this thing. That's what I'm looking forward to more than anything else. And defensively, there's a lot of guys on here that I think can be real impact players. It's just, if they get whatever opportunities they get, they have to make the most of them. Simple as that. Yeah,
exactly. Anything non-player related that you're looking forward to? Obviously, for us, it's being back in the stadium. You know, seeing you know, fans, and it'll be a preseason crowd. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't see it being sold out.
Oh, hell
I'll tell you that right now.
No, but I think just being back in the stadium is a lot better than, you know, just me just going up there during lunchtime and being able to walk into the stadium and, you know, do whatever. But
yeah, humble brag some more, Tim. Yeah.
No. I'm just saying versus that versus what's going to happen this week, and then obviously what's going to happen next week. Anything in particular you're looking forward to?
I think it's just being back and seeing live football, and even though it doesn't count in the standings, it still counts as far as evaluation goes, and just seeing what these guys can do, because we've seen what they've been able to do in the training camp sessions. And as I said, yeah, everybody looks good when you're kind of going, I won't say at half speed, but you're obviously not trying to kill the guy in front of you in training camp. Mm-hmm. But come tomorrow, this is your opportunity to go up against real competition, and those guys too are in the same scenario. They're looking to try and get a spot on Hamilton's roster. They're trying to make their case to be part of that group, and they're going to be playing too with purpose and intensity, and they're going to want to show out as well. So I mean, to me, that's part of the fun of especially the second preseason game, because first game it was a lot of the lesser known players, and you start seeing, okay, what kind of potential is there, and then just based on that, the guys that played extremely well that first preseason game versus Ottawa. Now we're going to be looking extra hard at them to see if they are the real deal, or were they just having a very good day that day. Mm-hmm. Like that's the key, is who's ready to step up and truly be a member of this team. And if you played outstanding football the first game, it doesn't matter. That's in the past. Like now, it's what have you done for me lately when it comes to football. You know, you are only as good as your last game, and that game was finished a week ago. Now you've got a new opportunity, a blank canvas to work with. whatever opportunity you get, you truly, truly have to make the most of it. I can't stress this enough. This is such an important job interview for a lot of these guys.
Yeah. And, obviously camaraderie, being back with the, Alouettes Nation and the Alouettes family. I'm actually looking forward to some of the new stuff that's going to be offered at the stadium this year, dude. I mean, the team made a huge talk about it. With I think it was, we mentioned I think it was last show. Mark Waitman was talking about all the additional beers and stuff that they're going to be adding, or and the new food. And the team announced some of the food that was going to be available, besides Slush Puppy. And are we heading up to the upper deck on our side for a Slush Puppy?
Well, if it stays bloody warm like it has been the past couple of days here, I think you're going to have to. I mean, you gotta find a way to cool down. I just hope that they have enough slush.
Considering how many people won't be at the stadium, tomorrow may be the day to go and try out these items without having to worry about the lineups.
That's true. Because I guarantee June 10th. I mean, as it stands right now, the game's not entirely sold out, but I'm sure tickets are moving pretty fast, just based on the fact that Our Lady Peace is playing, and there's going to be a flyover, and so many great things are going to be happening on June 10th. This is basically going to be our preseason game too, Tim. If, as you said, if we want to go try some of these things without fighting the crowds and missing any of the action, this might be the opportunity for us to do that and just be back in our seats and just take everything in like we've come to know.
There are a few things. One of them, I think, is the chili bowl, the chili with the bread bowl. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, you know what? I've said it before. Chili in a bread bowl is fantastic, but to me, that's more of a wintry kind of thing. Or when the cooler weather hits, come October, that's going to be fire, I think. But when it was hot, like it has been the past couple of days, I'm not sure if I really want to be scarfing down chili, even if it is in a bread bowl. Bread bowls make it better, right? Anything's good in a bread bowl, but I don't know if I really want to be eating chili right about now.
There's so many other things. There's I know, as much as I love slush puppies / Slurpee / slush / whatever you want to call them.
Flavored sugar water.
I'm all for it. But as I said, they got a couple of new things I want to try, and I'm glad they're expanding their offerings at the stadium. There's only so much that you can do with hot dogs and nachos and chips. So,
yeah, and of course it wouldn't be Montreal if they didn't have puts-in, and of course there's going to be signature puts-ins at the stadium as well.
I know, eh? It's just come across. They put some thought into it this year. I can't be more happy. Again, it's something that. Do we dare do like we did with the pretend helmet to try out some of these things and do it live? I'm looking at it here. It's why not, dude? Right?
Hey, you know what? That might not be a bad idea. At least kind of an unboxing, if you will, of food.
Yeah, exactly.
Or food reviews. Those are huge on YouTube as well. So that actually might not be a bad idea. Just get our hands on one or two of these items and let the fans know. Just if you're going to come to Molson Stadium and see an Alouettes game, you should try this or avoid it like the plague.
Yeah, exactly. Other things that the Alouettes did announce, actually, it's actually one thing besides the as we mentioned earlier about the flyover for the opener. And we were joking about it off air a couple weeks ago. Is they brought back the whiteout game. That's going to be when BC comes to town in September. You and I just shake our head.
Because, again, the Alouettes have never won a whiteout game.
No.
And two, the participation of it is minimal at best. I've said this a million times, and I guess I'll say it one more time just in case the right people are listening to this. A whiteout game only works when you've got a full stadium and literally everybody is wearing white, whether they bring it themselves or you have to provide them with T-shirts in order to achieve that whiteout effect. That's what it takes to make a whiteout game work. And unfortunately, the Alouettes, bless their hearts, just don't seem to ever get that. And it just feels like, okay, well, what's the point of making such a big hoopla out of it if only a quarter of the stadium is going to participate? And the fact that you do nothing to help encourage that atmosphere. It's just like, well, wear white if you want to. Well, I don't want to. Well, then nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like the whole point of the whiteout game. Again, when done properly, you look at college football. They do whiteout games, they do blackout games, and everybody's wearing the same color. Everybody's on the same page, and it looks amazing. But when the Alouettes do it, especially in a half full stadium, and it's like, it's like a lead balloon. It doesn't fly. It doesn't go over. It's almost pathetic when you think about it. So like, I cringe. Like, we thought we were safe this year. We thought, okay, they didn't announce a whiteout game. Finally, they got it. They understood. And then you told me about it. I'm like, oh, damn it all. This is why.
Yeah, the last time we had a whiteout game versus BC, which we have had before, was back in 2016. So we have had BC in town for whiteout games. So it's Kevin Glenn was our quarterback back then. So yeah, props to the team. They are trying to create some stuff, but I mean, it has to be done right. That's the main thing. Again, for me, and I'm sure as everybody else is, who is a uniophile, cannot wait for July 1st to see what these new alternate uniforms look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting, and if we can even get a bit of a preview of it, folks, and we can let you know about it, we certainly will. But like everything else, when it comes to Canadian Football League, there's just all of a sudden a cone of silence when it comes to stuff like this. So
give us a chance. Come on, Alouettes organization, give us a chance. We have our pens ready to sign the NDA. Just give us a shot.
Yeah. Well, what's the harm going to cause? I mean, if nothing else, we're just going to create hype.
Exactly. You gotta create FOMO and teasers. You know what? Again, teasers. It makes me wonder, and I'm just putting this out there now, because I could be completely off my rocker. Okay? And I mentioned this to you at the beginning of the show before we started. So the boutique started to promote some new stuff, and they showed basically from empty store to what a full store looks like over at the stadium. There's one item there in one of those photos that is not being promoted anywhere on the website. All the sideline merch, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
There's one item there in one of the few last pictures. And if you can find it, let me know. Tweet at me, DM me, email me at tim.capper@alouettesflightdeck.ca or cliff at cliffyd.pine@alouettesflightdeck.ca. If you can find it, let us know. But I think there is potentially one thing that is a slight nod to what may be coming. And I don't have any insight in, and I may be completely wrong on this. But I think there's one thing that may be giving a nod to the upcoming jerseys.
Okay.
Again, I don't have any inside information, but this is just me completely thinking outside of the wacky box.
Well, and hey, you could very well be right. That could be a bit of a clue right there. So I mean, folks, if nothing else, go check out the boutique. I mean, just to think maybe we might be getting a clue without even realizing it, or maybe even them realizing that they're releasing this, giving us a clue without, intentionally trying to do so. I mean, what do you folks think? I mean, as I said, if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on YouTube, let us know in the comments below. Social media, hit us up and let us know what you think it is going to be. Like, what do you think these uniforms are going to look like? Do you think that the pants that Tim are talking about, do you think that's a kind of a giveaway? Let us know. Let's talk about it.
It's in the I'm giving another hint. Yes, they're pants, and it's on the. If you go to their Facebook page, it's on the 6th photo. Again, I could be completely off my rocker on this one, but it just does not seem to go with everything else that the team has launched.
One of these things is not like the other.
One of these things is not like the other. Yes. But I'm trying to think of any other new stuff that the team put out this week. As I said, we're coming up on the game itself. We were at one of those points where we were lucky enough to take an extra day and hopefully have more information come out. But this is one of the few times to where it didn't happen.
Well, I mean, the big news won't be happening until Saturday. That's pretty much cut down day. Is like you have to have your final roster set by I think it's 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. So, as we've stated, like the games that are being played this weekend, essentially, there's 2 games being played tonight, Thursday, as we're recording, and then the 2 games on Friday. That's it. Like that's your preseason right there, finished. Once those games are done, that's it. Coaches have the very, very difficult task. I don't care what Homer Simpson says. Cuts are not the easiest part of any coaching job.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah,
it's huge. So like every player that's playing right now, regardless of the team, they've got to give everything, because by 10 p.m. on Saturday, you'll know if you're a member of this organization or another organization, or if you're just another football player that's hitting the road and trying to make their way to somewhere else, hopefully.
Yeah. And by the way, I know we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Just so for any of you guys out there, fans of the CFL, fans of the Alouettes, the 2023 CFL rulebook is now available online. You can head over to cfl.ca, and I'm trying to remember. It's there. It's there. If you under stats, go under stats. It's there, and also you can pick up the digital version also of the CFL guidebook. And obviously, congrats to friend of the pod, former Alouette, Gino Lewis, for becoming the poster boy this year. He got the cover.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, that's if that's not a Rigney endorsement, I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm. So, trying to think here. Anything else, dude, we have to talk about this week?
I mean, really, I think we've talked about everything we can when it comes to training camp. I mean, that part is essentially over now. Now we have a game to watch tomorrow, which, again, I'm definitely looking forward to being in the stands with you again and taking it all in. And really, folks, we were so encouraged by the feedback we got from our live stream. We're actually thinking about trying to do it. We may be able to do another one tomorrow, perhaps live at Percival Molson Stadium somehow. And just being able to share our thoughts and, have you folks chime in as well and let us know what you think of what you've seen as well. Because at this point, all we can do is speculate as to what the final roster is going to look like. So to me, I'm just itching to find out, because too that players are going to be posting about it too, saying either I'm a part of this team, or nope, I got cut. So it's always interesting as well to follow along throughout the day, because they may not release everything, and they're not obligated to release the final roster until after 10 p.m. And even then, some teams even just wait till the next day and just let you sit and wonder who could it be, who's going to be there. But the players, especially if they're cut, they'll let you know. And most of them, to their credit, have always been like, well, thank you for the opportunity, on to the next one kind of thing. But if someone played outstanding football and didn't make the cut, all they can wonder is, what did I do wrong? What did I, or what didn't I do?
Yeah,
become a member of this team. And I remember we dealt with this last year with Fabian Guerra, who he had an outstanding training camp, played incredible football in the 2 preseason games. Still wasn't quite enough for him to make the roster. And even we were befuddled. Okay, well, geez, I mean, what more does this guy have to do? And unfortunately, as I said earlier, sometimes it's really truly about the numbers game. Sometimes it's really a matter of, well, we've only got X number of spots available, and not everybody's going to make it. And that's the unfortunate thing about football, is you can play the best possible football, and sometimes it's just not enough. Yeah. And it's hard. It's, especially for players, it's got to be soul crushing to think that you gave everything you had and then some, and it was still nope, not enough. Try again the next day. Better luck next year, kind of thing. It sucks, but I mean, this is the sport we love, man. That's just the way it is. So I mean, to all these players that came to the camp, that did everything they could to be a member of this team, we salute you. We respect everything you've done, and all we can say is, may the odds be ever in your favor. Nothing but the best
CFL Hunger Games.
Yeah, pretty much. It is the Hunger Games when you think about it.
Yeah, no, that's true. Again, if you see us in stadium tomorrow night, let us come say hey. There is no secret word, so you won't get tickets for next week's game. You still got to enter that contest, but stay tuned for when that when it's basically ready, set, go, so you can enter in for the contest for the home opener. Just have fun, guys. As I said, it should be fun. New season, get to see our guys again, and it's heading into the regular season. It should be fun. So enjoy it. And obviously, Cliff, I will see you tomorrow night, bud, because it's just going to be fun no matter what. So.
Oh, 100%. And folks, don't forget, the game will be broadcast on TV on RDS, or you can go to CFL preseason on the CFL.ca website. If you to me, I think, if you want to watch the game on TV and you have RDS, that's one way to do it, even though it's all in French. Or you tune in, and I'm actually curious to see how it's going to go, because they'll get supposedly you're getting the feed from the video board plus the commentary from the local radio station. So you had brought up an interesting point. Like, are we going to see, could they possibly put RDS's video feed in and then just overdub the TSN 690 crew, for example, since they're technically the home announcing team? I think this could be really interesting. Too bad we'll be in the stadium. We won't know until well after the fact, but folks, however it is that you watch these games, make sure you tune in, make sure you check it out, or better yet, come to the game itself and see it live. I mean, there's nothing better than live football, right? So
exactly.
It's gonna, even though it doesn't count in the standings, it's still gonna be a good time no matter what. I think tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening.
Yeah, exactly. You're already there, dude. I can tell.
I can tell. I think, like I said, I just want to get back in my seat, back to watching watching these Alouettes do their thing, and yeah, let's see what kind of a team we're going to have this year. That's crucial more than anything else. I want to see what the final product's going to look like, at least get an idea of what the final product's going to look like, and just see who's going to be good enough, who's going to step up and take those spots that are available. That to me is what I'm looking forward to more than anything else. And let's just get this going. It's June now, so we're finally in June. It's finally officially Canadian Football Month and beyond. So let's do it.
Exactly. Well, we thank everybody for joining us for episode 198 of the Alouettes Flight Deck. We will be here next week to talk about the cuts leading up to the home opener versus the Ottawa Red Blacks and all that's to come. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on final approach.